Hello and welcome back to another Game Hump. That's right, it's Wednesday night. Here we are on the Game Huggers channel. We are doing another game chat. We're doing it live tonight on Wednesday night. It's Game Hump here on the Game Huggers YouTube channel. Woo! Yeah! And I'm actually really excited about tonight. We got some new faces on the show. We got Ben. Ben is back again. Say hi, Ben.
Yo, what's up?
There he is, Ben with the headset on. And we got two new people that are joining our conversation this week. It is Bo, live from his basement, playing a game. Say hi, Bo.
Hi. So,
And you can catch him at Twitch, the Twitch.com website. I believe he's streaming right now. I think he's streaming Halo, actually. Isn't that right, Bo?
yeah, I'm streaming GoldenEye, and GoldenEye is like the best game ever. You guys need to watch it for GoldenEye.
I have no idea what he just said. But also we've got Aaron, who unfortunately did not get his little graphic on the bottom to work tonight. Every week we seem to have this same problem. Last week it was Ben, but he got his little, whatever you want to call it, thing working. But Aaron is also joined us today, and why don't you go ahead and say hi, Aaron? Look at that.
Hello.
There's the graphic. That is real high tech.
I went for the best that I could get.
At such short notice, you did a good job.
Yeah.
I think it
D
looks
for
great.
effort.
Did you say E for effort or A for effort?
I said D for effort. D as in Dingleberry.
Oh, that's good. What I'm thinking about now is a lot of people have asked me why on these shows don't we do more like graphics? Why don't we do more music? Why don't we do more like special effects and things like that? And I don't know. I can't figure out how to do any of these things yet. So maybe someday soon we'll have graphics and music and effects and things like that. But for now, this is just how it's going to be. Unless, Ben wants to sing a song or something.
Nah, I'm good.
Indeed you are. So
That makes me glad that he's good.
So how about this? What I'd like to do is kind of like what Ben and I did last week, where we did kind of introductions on what we're currently playing, what games we enjoy, anything like that, a little bit of history about yourself if you're going to, if you feel like sharing anything you want to share. And Aaron, since your name starts with the letter A, why don't you just go ahead and kick that off?
Okay, cool. I just got back from playing a little bit of Rock Band 4 because that just came out yesterday. Having some fun with that. And I'm also playing some of Destiny, the Taken King, and Pokemon Shuffle.
Nice. Is that cell phone Pokemon Shuffle?
Yeah, it's kind of like Bejeweled Blitz, but with Pokemon.
That's
and not
really
as good as Bejeweled Blitz.
Not as cool as Bejeweled Blitz?
No. But it has Pokemon, so I kind of, because I grew up with Pokemon, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a little bit of nostalgia. It'd be like if there was like a Mario version of it. The same thing, be playing it.
I can totally understand that. That's pretty cool. All right, hey, Bo, how about you give us an introduction? Because honestly, none of us have met you before.
So my name is Bo Solaris. I'm generally known as a fucking asshole. And sorry, those some words.
Bojack So I Eris.
That's me. I currently am playing Destiny. I Twitch Destiny all the time. I also have a big hard-on following for any of the From Software games, including King's Field, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Masochistic. That's me. I like those types of games. They're very hard. But yeah, that's currently what I'm up to.
That's pretty awesome. So what are you guys looking to get out of this show? Is there anything that you guys feel like you can bring to the table? Or did you watch last week? Is there anything that you'd like to kind of share with the world? Because, man alive, I see right now that we have one viewer, and I'm sure they're completely entertained by this show.
Well, I think... can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, there wasn't really a question there. What do you want? Is there anything that you want to get across as far as like, hey, this is something really cool that I'm into, and I need to share it with people?
So I don't think this is really something that's really cool that I need people to know, but I think it's important that everybody's got an opinion on games, and everybody's got an opinion on something. The bottom line is, if something's not your type of game, don't play it, right? I mean, does that make sense? Like, I hear people bashing certain games and bashing, game genres and everything like that, and it's clearly just not their thing, right? So you'll have a mom on Facebook playing all the little Facebook games, Vampire Wars or Bejeweled or some shit like that, and then that mom will go off and bash any other game that's not like that at all, just primarily because it's not her type of game. It's not something they would play, so it's bad. So I just want people to know that it's okay not to like a game, and it's okay to have a different opinion. It doesn't make the game bad. It just makes it just for a different audience than what you are.
I completely understand that. I think that there's a lot of people out there who are into one type of game, and then they find out someone is playing something maybe that they never tried or maybe just never got into, and they're like, oh my god, how can you be playing that crap? You should be doing this or you should be doing that. Like people that get in line every year for the new Call of Duty or the new Madden, I kind of just shake my head. But it's like, hey, if that's what they're into, I mean, let them be into it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to sit and bash on it.
Right, yeah.
This actually kind of segues into something that I wanted to talk about, and that's actually the game you're playing right now, Bo, and that's the Destiny series. I mean, I've heard so many different people have so many different opinions on it, and it ranges, and I've never heard a person just say, yeah, I played Destiny, it's all right. Like, I've never heard that. I've heard people say it sucks, and it's overrated, and we hate it, and we don't know why anybody's playing it, all the way to it's the best thing that's ever happened to gaming. Like, it's kind of weird how there's such a huge difference in opinions on just that game alone.
All right, so Aaron, what do you think of Destiny? You play Destiny, don't you?
Yeah, I play Destiny.
Okay, so what do you think of it?
I think that Destiny is a really well-polished shooter and a adequate MMO, and I enjoy playing it. Like, I think the reason why people get so kind of like polarized about it is because it isn't really anything special on the FPS front. It isn't anything innovative. It's just really well polished, but it is also something that people are going to look back on, and you're going to see EA make something similar. You're going to see Ubisoft probably make something similar. You're going to see people make this type of game. It's going to be kind of like World of Warcraft was to the medieval MMOs. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
So you see like EA coming out with an equivalent? Say like a spin-off to Mass Effect or something?
Yeah, I definitely see them making a Mass Effect equivalent to try to cash in on it.
I don't.
I don't really. So EA doesn't have Battlefield anymore, do they? Or do they? Are they?
Yeah, they're still.
So okay. So Battlefield comes out this fall, right? The beta starts tomorrow, doesn't it? The 8th.
Today.
Today the beta started, and it's an open beta for everybody. Like who does Fallout? Who's the publisher there?
Bethesda.
Bethesda. Okay. So I think now. Don't get me wrong, I'm a hardcore Destiny player, all right? But I am not going to defend the game into the dirt against things that, against faults of it, right? So we all know Bungie made Destiny.
God bless you.
And, it was my controller. I'm gonna get in a safe spot here. So Bungie made Destiny. What else is Bungie really well known for besides owning? Right?
Halo.
Okay, yeah. Bungie made Halo, which was penultimate, except for the Master Chief Collection and I think Halo 4. Bungie did really well for themselves in the FPS universe. Not all of that transferred over very well to Destiny. Aaron says it's a very well-polished game, and from the PvE aspect, I think it's pretty well polished. The game's got some. It's got some hang-ups in PvE, but PvP was probably one of the worst incantations of a PvP that I've seen in a very long time, in year one. Now, we've just recently hit year 2 with Destiny, where there's been a whole lot of weapon balancing and like a scale back in damage with a longer time to kill in PvP. But I think that Destiny overall is a great game. I like it. I've invested a lot of money into it. I've bought every expansion. I've purchased every single DLC that comes with it. It doesn't have that MMO aspects of like a traditional MMO. It does have a wide open world where you can be um, in sort of congregation with other random players that are geographically close to you. But there are really no tools in game in order to communicate with people in real time. You have like a set of 4 emotes that you can do, but that's a dance, a point, a wave, and a sit down motion. So there's really no communication in game for people that aren't in a PlayStation party chat or an Xbox party chat already to communicate or work together, as it were. Um, all of the communication and because in an MMO, a big thing of it is communicating with just random people that you meet up with, right? I mean, you meet someone in the world, you see a boss, and you wanna take the boss down as like a group. So there has to be some form of communication that's there. Really, Bungie doesn't have anything to support that socialization within the game at all.
They do
Um, I,
they do have the public chat in like the tower and the PvP, but it's opt-in, so no one opts into it.
right, yeah, and that's only if you load in under the same fire team, right? So you have to be already teamed up with those people in order to actually opt into that chat and to be able to hear them. And from
You can do it in the tower without opting in,
you
or
can't do it in
without
the
being in the
tower,
fire team.
but you can't hear the random people in the tower unless they're part of your fire team. So I can actually load into the tower right now, opt into um, fire team chat or just regular chat, and you won't be able to hear anybody else if you guys are on the street. Um, I think that's a really good thing, judging by the player base that is in this game, because one of Destiny's big reasons for success is they had no competitors when it launched. There was no game that was like Destiny when Destiny launched. So it had absolutely nothing to compete with. It was a very, very hyped title. And as we all know, when a game gets hyped, there are expectations that come from conclusions that are drawn from watching videos. And conclusions and expectations also come from developer conferences. And people misconstrue what is said, and like I said, they develop their own expectations. And when that happens, and those expectations aren't met, whose fault is it really if it's a bad game? Is it the developers that gave you some information, or is it everybody that was drawing conclusions and setting up their own expectations based on data that wasn't even there in the first place?
So, is Destiny like a Halo meets Phantasy Star Online?
Mm.
Well, Phantasy Star Online was actually a good game.
That's true. I mean,
But-
PSO is amazing.
So what similarities are we looking for? Like when you say Phantasy Star Online meets Halo, what similarities are you looking at that Phantasy Star Online would have brought to a Destiny universe?
Well, I think that a lot of the gameplay elements are similar to Halo. I mean, it's Bungie, so you have a lot of the same like controls. I think that the feeling and the music and even the effect, at least what I saw in the playing that I did, I haven't played a lot, and my kids have played a lot more than I have for sure. But in any of the playing that I've done, it feels like there's an overuse of the color blue, which is a very Phantasy Star Online thing.
I would say personally, I would say it's probably closer to Halo meets Diablo than Halo meets Phantasy Star Online, especially in the limited communication and stuff like that. It's, in my opinion, has a lot more things similar to Diablo than it does have to Phantasy Star.
See, I
Yeah,
personally
I
think
would agree.
communication in Phantasy Star was a lot worse than it was in Diablo. Because you had like a proximity chat and stuff like that in Diablo, right? And in Phantasy Star, you had preset emotes, right? You had really no way to effectively communicate with the people around you.
No, that's not true. You had a keyboard. You could use a keyboard.
So that's an external peripheral that was a must-have in order to do that, correct?
Well, if you have the PC version, I'm assuming you have a keyboard.
Well, what if you had like the GameCube version?
Then you'd have to get the GameCube / controller / keyboard thing. Yeah, that would be.
The thing that was like what this like long and obnoxious
I,
thing.
I have one. It's awesome. It's very cool.
I've seen it.
All right. Uh, if we compare Destiny to an MMO, we should probably define Destiny as an MMO, which it isn't.
No, it's
It's
not an MMO. I don't think
it's
it is whatsoever.
what I would think. Like, if we call Destiny an MMO, we should call Monster Hunter an MMO. It's the exact same thing. You know, you have 3-person fire teams to 6 people person fire teams. That's not a lot of people. You don't get to meet a lot of people. And then everyone else is in party chats with anyone else. Everyone's, like doing their own thing, so you never really get to meet people, which made MMOs on the PC, like uh, EverQuest, like Ultima Online, Eve, World of Warcraft. That's why they lasted so long, is because people would make bonds with random strangers and make guilds and clans and all that and play with them. In Destiny, if you don't know anybody, it's going to be really hard for you to get in
Well,
because
doesn't that make it an MMO then?
no,
An
because you
MMO
can't.
has tools in game in order to like form these parties and tools for communication within the game to do that. That's why I think
Yeah,
it's more likened to Fantasy Star Online because it's a loot grind with limited in-game communication. There's like a basic level system and there's like a subclass system, but it's nothing fleshed out like what any MMO would be.
and
Right?
then the worlds, you can only have 12 people on your server, your world at a time. So you can't even meet like random people that you would probably normally be friends with because they're on a whole different, a world because yours is maxed out with 12 people on it.
Hmm.
Like
Do you,
it's so selective that like I think they really screw themselves over by just doing consoles and not doing the PC.
Well, actually, so there's a funny story behind the only 6-man fire team thing and only 12 people in a local instance, and that's because when Activision and Bungie got together for release and marketing of this game, they held themselves back for releasing for previous generations of consoles. Um, if they had not included Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 into the mix, they would not have half of the limitations that they do now and things to be opened up quite a bit more.
Well, they didn't have to go to the old generation. Like they could
No,
have
they
just
didn't.
they
But
could
when you
have
have a
just
release,
waited for the PS4 and Xbox One, and they would still make money. Hey, maybe they would have had more content when it released, and it would be more enjoyable.
they would have, but from a marketing standpoint and a marketing decision, that's not a smart move to do. You don't want to exclude half of your audience.
All right, we can't talk about how they're smart with marketing because they released a game with like half the content that was promised.
No, that's not true.
That is
So
true.
this is part of the
In the
expectations
demos, oh
that
my god,
I have an
way more
interview.
content.
I have an interview that's recorded with Luke Smith, who specifically on the NeoGAF forums addresses every conclusion and expectation that people had put forth on their own from the Game Developer Conference or whichever conference it was, where it does. That was E3 2014, 2013, 2014.
I think it was 13.
13? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because Destiny was actually supposed to be originally released in 2013.
Yeah.
But Luke Smith, he's the overall raid designer, and he's pretty in deep with Destiny.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, he's really good at pissing people off, that's for sure. And then coming back and bouncing back with gusto. But Luke Smith specifically, and I'm going to try and find this thread now, on the NeoGAF forums, addressed all of these issues and expectations that people had, and specifically said that they weren't originally part of the game at all. And so any game that's going to have DLC expansions and have future expansions, there's something called asset loading and asset preloading. So you're going to have assets that are on disk that won't be used at the time of the game's release. Right? This is to save atrocious download and load times when an actual expansion comes out. So I think that Taken King expansion for Destiny was like a 20 gig download for PlayStation 4 users. It was slightly larger for PlayStation 3 due to a system configuration thing that the PlayStation 3 has to do for downloading and installing updates to games.
So this most recent expansion or sequel or whatever you want to call it is actually available on the PS3 and Xbox 360 too?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
For all the games. But I do have to say, the Taken King, they're going in a better direction. It's a better game. I had 3 weeks of enjoyment with it, so it tops any other expansion.
So would you consider that Destiny is a game, like a video game? Does it feel like a video game? Does it have play controls and does it have game aspects?
It is a first-person shooter.
Okay, so then it's not an MMORPG because MMOs are just glorified chat rooms. So really, it's not it's not an MMO. Well, that makes sense then.
I would just define it as a first-person shooter.
Really. It's a first-person loot grind. Let's go with that.
I'll agree.
And I think the loot grind aspect is why everybody would would draw conclusions that it's similar to Phantasy Star Online. As anybody who's played any PSO knows that the loot grind in that game is horrendous.
But there were special drops on special days and special events, and you could get double point drops and all kinds of stuff.
They have them in Destiny, daily heroics with like added secrets to get the better weapons. They have stuff like that.
Okay.
But I mean, I just have a problem with how they like brought out the game, and the first 2 expansions weren't really that big in content-wise. Like, I mean,
they were not.
It was like 2 weeks, and then everyone's like, oh, whatever. And then they come out with the Taken King, and then they just piss on everyone who bought the game before then. Like, now you can buy the game for $60 and you get all 3 expansions.
I believe that was 80?
No, it was
all
60.
3 expansions?
It was 60.
Okay.
But, I mean, and then everyone who's bought the game from launch and the 2 expansions now have to pay $40 for the Taken King. It was just dumb in my book.
Yeah, the pricing was very touchy for a while, because if you bought the original game, how much was that? That was $60, right? And then if you bought the season pass, that was $35 for the Dark Below and the House of Wolves, which, and I will completely agree with you, House of Wolves did not have a raid, so it was at max about 4 or 5 days of solid content. It didn't really add anything. And Taken King was $40 if you upgraded. So if we add that up, we have 60 for vanilla, 35 for the 2 expansions, which puts us at 95, plus another $40 for your digital Taken King upgrade. So that's what, $135 for a game that's now, I would say, maybe 2 months worth of content. Now this is depending on how many characters you play and how many different classes you play.
Can you take the original game, like the original one that's now $29.99 or less, at GameStop or wherever, and play it? Is it like, can you play it, or do you have to have this new expansion to play with the new rules?
You can play it.
Is it like Magic the Gathering where certain cards are banned because it's an old expansion?
You just you can't do all the added bonus stuff. I think you can get to level 20 or something.
You can still play the original raid. You can still get up to 40 actually, and you can still get new.
Actually, you can only hit level 34, I think, if you don't buy any of the expansions. So if you buy just vanilla Destiny, you're gonna have some issues, because if you don't buy Taken King, 1, you won't be able to reach the new level cap. 2, you're going to be kind of locked into all year 1 weapons, which in year 2 Destiny did a massive overhaul of their complete weapon system. And all year 1 weapons were pretty much null and void about 3 hours, 4 hours into the year 2 content.
So the more money you pay, the more of this game you unlock.
The more you're able to play. Yeah, that's with any expansion or DLC. But yes, the more money you pay, the more you will be able to play.
But no, I was just so mad that basically they said, "Who, all our customers that played from the start, yeah, we don't really care about you. We just want more people to play." Like
Well,
they should
that's
have.
not entirely true. A
Ooh,
bunch of
they gave an
year one.
exotic. Ooh,
No,
like
year one
really?
players got a bunch of items that didn't break the game. They got a bunch of cosmetic items that would
No,
signify them
I
as year
want an
one.
item, Gallarhorn version 2.0 for year one players.
Let's call it. Well, no, that would completely break the game. That would make it so anybody who didn't play in year one would never ever go into PvP. They would never go into PvP because what you're creating there is a divide between year one and year two players that directly impacts the gameplay. That's
But there
why
has there has to be some sort of a way, even if it's not quite as crazy as what Ben just proposed. But there has to be some way to sort of congratulate or reward those people that have been sticking around since the beginning. Because if somebody just jumps in with this new expansion and is able to leapfrog other people that have been playing for 16 months or whatever, it's like what Ben said, it pisses off the originals.
And the Bungie awarded many cosmetic items for people that played in year one, and those items will never again be obtainable by people unless they played in year one and completed specific objectives in year one.
The shaders and the sparrow colors are cool, but I mean, like, give me something like better. I mean,
So you get an emblem as well, and you get a specific ghost shell. Now you say thumbs down, but this emblem is seen every place you're going to be. Everybody that would even see your character is going to see this emblem. And it's going to be forever out of reach to them. They will never be able to get that emblem at all. I get messages on a daily basis when I play PvP when there are taken tots, which are kindergarten or people that just purchased Destiny with Taken King. We call them Taken Tots because they're newbies to the whole world. I get messages on a daily basis. Where'd you get that emblem? Where'd you get that shader? All right. Now I don't use the ghost shell that they give them because it's just not acceptable for in-game content. But
I love the Kingslayer shell, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Kingslayer shell is amazing. I have it up on my character right now. If anybody would like to take a look at it.
I love my Taken Ghost.
It is amazing.
It's kind of like the Peter Dinklage. It's kind of like the Peter Dinklage of the shells now, because he was taken from us. Anyway.
Okay, I can follow that one. I can follow that one a little bit.
All right, so Destiny. It's a game that has polarizing opinions, and I think this is a prime example of that. Aaron has been so vocal on how much he loves the game, or does he hate the game? I'm not even sure what he does.
It's got good gunplay mechanics. It does, because it's copying them from Halo. They wouldn't really translate well to PC, but they do very well on consoles, just like Halo. It doesn't translate well to PC, but it does very well on consoles.
Well, there you go. So, okay, now what of this current generation, what video game consoles do each of you guys own?
PS4.
I have a PlayStation 4, like Ben. I have played an Xbox One, and I have played on Wii U, but I do not own those systems of the next gen systems.
I have PS4, Wii U, I guess 3DS and Vita, if they count. Do they count? I don't even know if they count, but if they do, then those two as well.
I don't know. The Vita, Sony just announced the discontinuation of the Vita, so I don't know how much that can.
I thought they just announced that they weren't going to make a second. They weren't going to make a one after this or whatever.
Yeah, this is the end. They're not going to do a PS Vita Go or anything like that.
Thank God.
Well, it's really strange because I dislike Sony. I mean, I don't have a real love for anything Sony's done in the gaming world, but I really do like the PSP, and I really am interested and very curious about the PS Vita. It looks like such a powerful handheld. I mean, it blows away anything. It's basically a portable PS3. It's crazy. But they keep releasing these consoles, these handhelds like the PSP and the PSP Go and now the PS Vita, and they just don't support it. It's like, here's this beautiful system. come save us, third-party developers, and all the third-party developers are like, well, let's just port some PS2 games to it or whatever. It's like Assassin's Creed Ultra. Like there's no support for it. It's just crazy that Sony allows this to happen. I mean, they just follow Nintendo's suit. Just put out some games that are available exclusively on it. Make it so that's something that people are going to be interested in. Don't just port console to it. And I don't know. It's just bizarre.
Well, they just screwed over the Vita when they released it. They didn't wait and kind of get a good library of exclusives going. They kind of threw it out there with a bunch of random ported games, and then went, everyone will like it. Oh yeah, your PSPs are useless now, and everyone's like, but I like PSP better.
I think there was a original PSP game. The last one to come out was just this last year in 2015, and the Vita is also going to have its last games in 2015.
Well, I mean,
no, it'll still have games going past this.
You think so?
Nintendo's doing way better in handheld anyway.
Well, Nintendo's always been king of the handheld market, and there was almost no challenge to that ever. It's ever since the original Game Boy. Game Gear was probably one of the very few challengers to the handheld market, and if Game Gear couldn't really take down, if a colored screen for mobile gaming could not take down a monochromatic screen, then it wasn't going to happen.
That's because you needed your own battery factory.
You did. You did.
You really did.
Batteries were definitely a thing with Game Gear. I mean, it would suck through those quicker than a vacuum cleaner.
You're gonna go with something. You're gonna go something. I'm glad you went with vacuum cleaner.
I'm still waiting for the Virtual Boy 2.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I'd buy it.
I'd also like to point out, though, Sony has not been economically well off in the past 5-6 years. They've constantly been posting loss, and they don't do the same thing Nintendo does, where they bank all of their profits and just sit on it. So it probably was ambitious for them to release the Vita, to be honest, because they needed to put money behind the PS4 to get it off to the start that it's on, because that's gonna save their company. If the PS4 failed, Sony would have just been gone.
Only the gaming division of Sony. Sony has a big brother in other handheld electronics that I don't think
they lose $2 billion on their smartphones. They lose a ton of money.
By having that big brother as a safety net, there's Nintendo doesn't have that. That's why Nintendo has to bank all of their shit. Oh fuck.
Sony's biggest profitable division was PlayStation.
They actually had two profitable divisions. They had PlayStation and the Spider-Man movie franchise.
And they got rid of one of those.
and now one of them is okay, and the other one's completely bombed out. But yeah, I've heard a lot about that. Sony had a projected bankruptcy that was it was predicted, I should say, that it would happen in 2017 if the company was going to continue on the way that it was on. And I know, Bo, you're talking about that Big Brother company of what they have. And another profitable thing they have is the Blu-ray disc. They get $1 every time Microsoft sells an Xbox One game, even. So it's really interesting where Sony's bleeding a lot of money in all their different divisions, other than video game systems. And it's interesting because I believe that they even take a little bit of a hit every time that they sell a console, because the expenses of creating a PS4 and packaging it and shipping it and all that actually comes out to a little bit more than what they sell them for in the stores. So it's not that good of a picture right now for them.
They also make money on life insurance. It's big in Japan. They actually do make quite a bit of money on their life insurance in Japan.
That's the Big Brother. That's the Big Brother.
That's the Big Brother.
So okay, what was it that made you guys decide to go with a PS4 over the Xbox One? Because in my household, my children kind of picked what they wanted for Christmas last year. We had waited a full year after the consoles were all out, and they picked out the Xbox One, mostly because of Halo. I mean, that was what they wanted. The Master Chief Collection came out last holiday season, and they really wanted that. But a lot of the other games that were cross multi-platform on all of them, like the wow, I can't even speak. I don't even know. Terraria, that's it. Terraria, Minecraft, other games like there's Plants vs Zombies Warfare, something like that. Whatever.
I'll give you 2 words. I'll give you 2 words why pick PlayStation over Xbox. Naughty Dog. Done.
What does Naughty Dog do? Is that the Crash Bandicoot guys?
It's
I think
Last
they did
of
Crash
Us
Bandicoot.
and Uncharted.
Yeah, they do all the Uncharted games, correct? And I do believe
Yes.
they did
Yeah.
the Bandicoot series too.
Uncharted,
Yeah.
Last of Us, Jack and Daxter, all that.
So what's okay? So Uncharted. That's your not no interest at all in Sunset Overdrive or whatever other exclusives that the Xbox.
Actually, Sunset Overdrive looks like garbage. I don't like the cartoon color, like stylized zombie type
But have you played it?
thing. Yes.
Did you know that it was from the makers of Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio? Jet Set Radio Future on the Xbox.
Yep.
Did you not like those games either? Because it's very similar.
Not really. I played the first one, Jet Set Radio, and I kind of got bored of it
Huh.
pretty quickly.
Huh. Okay.
I love Crazy Taxi though. Crazy Taxi was my jam back then.
You listen to a lot of Offspring?
Yes, I do. How'd you know? But no, Naughty Dog is one of the best exclusive
Oh, hey, hold on a
developers
second.
I've seen.
Ben, that wasn't
What?
a dude. That wasn't a dude that was behind you. I think that was a girl.
It was.
Grill? Grill on stream?
It was a grill.
It was a grill IRL. Whoa.
Oh my
IRL.
god.
He had a grill in his room, IRL. Okay, so what? Okay, so you guys are all PS4 people. You say the PS4 is the best out of this generation.
So
I mean,
the best.
is it too early to tell?
That's pretty arbitrary, right? That's completely up to someone's opinion because you can have best in terms of sales, best in terms of popularity.
It is a
Or
little
best
bit
in terms of
arbitrary, but
game selection.
overall, you can pick what is your best. There's always a way that I can say something is the best and something is my favorite. You know,
Right. I would
like
say that now in this generation, because of what Microsoft did when they were announcing the Xbox One, PlayStation is winning. With Microsoft saying like they want to go straight all download and like no use games anymore, and talking out their ass constantly, and then coming on conventions and just scrapping everything and saying the total opposite because they know they're wrong. And it's like, really, who do you care more, the consumer or your pockets?
yeah,
I'll go to Sony.
I kind of had
Whatever.
hoped. I had hoped.
Well,
they kinda-
Microsoft showed that they cared about their consumers though when they changed their whole business model to match what Sony was doing.
Yeah, but they didn't have to change it if they cared in the first place. If they cared in the first place, they wouldn't do stupid crap that they would have to change later.
I personally kind of wish they would have stuck to their guns.
I'm with Josh.
I wish they would have.
think-
I wish they would have went with that weird ass idea of not allowing you to do all these weird things and have everything on super lockdown. I just wish they would have done it just because that's what they wanted to do so bad, and I wish they would have just done it because
I would have respected them more if they would have kept it.
I wish they would have just went completely diskless. Just went all downloadable and just went full out in that. Instead of doing this kind of oh, you can get the disc, but it's really just a downloaded game, which is what they're doing with their backwards compatibility now, which I think is just kind of silly. Just go all diskless. Yeah, but on the best console thing, I'd have to say I think in my personal opinion, I think the PS4 is probably going to would be remembered as the best console this generation. But if I had to pick one to have, it would be the Wii U because I could buy 4 games for it and just play them endlessly. And not have to worry about getting anything else because Nintendo is masterful at making games that fit the genres that they have perfectly.
Are we going to be talking about Super Mario Maker?
Hell yeah.
I love Mario Maker. It's awesome.
I'm seriously considering just walking into the door one day when I come home with a Wii U in my hands because I'm like I can't. All my friends are posting pictures on Facebook about, oh look, I got a new level. Here's the code to play it, and here's this and here's that, and oh join me on Splatoon, and I'm like, I don't have these things, and it looks awesome. It looks awesome. I played it. I played it at LinkCon or Pizza and Games last month, and it was so awesome.
I also think it's interesting because we were talking about the communication thing with Destiny earlier, and it's interesting because it seems like with Bungie and with Nintendo, they're kind of going away from the open communication, the audio chat that we typically see in multiplayer games, and just completely abandoning that, which I think isn't necessarily a bad idea because there are a lot of people who do not like going on to like a shooter and playing in multiplayer and being made fun of. Even though there's us with like thick skins who are fine with it, but there are people who are not, and it pushes them away. And so it makes sense as a business to just be like, hey, let's not have that, so people can still enjoy that without getting that kind of experience, I guess.
That's true. I think that Nintendo kind of all along has had that sort of mentality because I don't really think there's any games where they've had this huge open communication. I mean, for God's sakes, we used to have to put in like a 17-character long passcode in just to send someone a message on the original Wii. So, but and then on the DS too, they have that same thing. But what's your friend code? Oh, here's my friend code. Like, oh god. And then you're like typing them in with your Wiimote. And you get one character wrong, and it's like, sorry, that person doesn't exist, and that whole thing just disappears, and you have to start over.
Wouldn't that be like weird in real life if that like happened? You're like, oh, I want to talk to this person, and then like you misspell their name, and it's like that person doesn't exist. Peace. And you're like, no.
Or you're at a bar and you see some chick, and you're like, hey, what's your friend code?
Yeah.
And they write out this huge, like, long-ass list thing on this piece of paper.
And then all it says is that friend doesn't exist. Or like that person's not that into you.
Dude, she
Do you
gave me...
realize we already have this? The phone numbers.
Yeah, but it has to be really long and really complicated.
With all sorts of letters and numbers, and there's zeros and O's, so you have no idea what it is. She gave me a fake friend code.
Oh, the humanity.
Yeah. So, what would you guys consider? Okay, so if there's a cut and dry, maybe a cut and dry winner as far as sales so far in this generation, it's the PS4. Some people have said that their favorite console is the Wii U, maybe the PS4. The Xbox One, I'm sure, has its fans out there, but it's not necessarily in this group of people, I would assume. But what would be like a console war or a console generation that would be your favorite?
Nintendo, Sega, bam.
Well, which one? Are you talking about the N64 and the Sega Saturn?
I'm talking about the 16-bit, the Genesis Super Nintendo drop.
I think that was the most competitive one for sure. I mean, as far as consoles that were neck and neck for the longest period of time, like all of the early 90s, the Genesis and the Super Nintendo were definitely a very interesting time in gaming for sure.
That was the golden age of gaming, in my opinion. The Super Nintendo and Genesis era.
Like, I mean, when you talk about console wars and you like talk about anything that happened, like when that happened, both consoles had Mortal Kombat, but like, Sega was like, we're gonna trick people and like kind of keep the blood in there, while Nintendo doesn't. Haha, we're gonna win. They did some shady stuff back in the day.
It's true.
Well, now now they're doing shady stuff, but back then it was pretty like,
now you don't see specific commercials or any kind of advertising campaigns that are like ripping on each other. It's like back then it was almost like a political campaign where they were like telling like, Sega does what Nintendo don't, like, or Sonic picking on Mario for being a fat Italian plumber. He can't do these kind of moves like I can do, and it's like, whatever. And then Nintendo kind of striking back with the whole like, yeah, we can do more colors than the Genesis. We have Mode 7,
Wasn't like Nintendo always going like the true 16-bit
Yeah.
with
think
like
so.
Paul Rudd's very first like TV
Yep.
stuff was the Super Nintendo commercial,
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
which was awesome.
It was very cool.
Whoa!
I always took the Super Nintendo commercial where it was talking about being the one true 16-bit console as kind of a dig on the TurboGrafx 16. So therefore, I took it personally and hated the Super Nintendo ever since.
The TurboGrafx 16 had fans?
Yes, it does. Amazing
What's
system.
a turbo?
One fan.
And that's all it needs. God damn it.
There are dozens of you. Dozens.
Well, yeah, that generation would be my favorite. I would actually. It's interesting because I was thinking about that same thing too, about like the console wars and the most competitive ones. Different generations being called like the 8-bit generation or the 16-bit generation or whatever. Like which one would you even consider to be like the best? And I think it'd have to be the 16-bit wars, which is kind of a cop out because that's what everyone's that's what Ben said too. So it's like the 8-bit one is amazing, and the 32-bit, 64-bit one is really good too. But they all had one clear-cut winner that like blew away everyone else, and then all the other ones were just battling for second place, which you could even kind of consider happened in this last generation with the Wii and the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
See, that's one that I would find the most competitive.
Would be the PS2 Xbox war. That was a good one for me too.
The GameCube was in there too, dude.
What?
Sorry. The GameCube also.
What
the
are you saying? There's a GameCube in there?
The GameCube has more worldwide sales.
That was Atari, right? GameCube?
Yes, that's no. That generation actually has the biggest gap of all of them. I think the PS2 is the best-selling video game console in history of all world. Like it's 111 million consoles sold, and the Xbox had like 10, and the GameCube had like 13. It's like the Sony PlayStation 2 outlasted everyone. It had like 80% of the market or more. It was crazy.
I was just gonna say, I think objectively the best one has to be the SNES versus Genesis, but I think like the most competitive might have been the last generation, because the Wii like got up to this big head start that no one could catch up to, but it just kind of didn't keep momentum after that. Like if you look at the sales, it kind of dipped down, and then the 360 took off way ahead of the PS3, but then by the end of it, the PS3 had exceeded the 360 in sales.
Yep. Which
is pretty amazing because it doesn't typically happen with consoles.
No, it doesn't. The PS3 actually started really slow too, because it was a real hit at first, and then no one wanted it for about a year, and it was considered a flop. And Sony had been told by all sorts of advisors to just drop it and go on to the next thing, like it's going to fail. And then they just stuck with it, and then all these games started coming out. They kind of went with a different philosophy, dropped the price, refigured it, did different models that were a little less expensive than the $500 model. And then it started to catch up. And by the end of it, I think the Wii had most of its sales in the years 2006 to 2010, but after like 2011, 2012, it almost disappeared off the map. Like no one was buying Wiis anymore. But they had sold almost 100 million systems in those first 4 years of the console being around. So really all the Xbox 360 and the PS3 did was just play catch up for the rest of the time. It was like a battle for number 2.
Yeah. But I will say also my favorite, just in terms of entertainment, I guess, would probably be the Atari Magnavox rivalry, because the way that Atari kind of manipulated Magnavox was brilliant. Like they had Magnavox pay for the development of the 2600 and then get none of the profits from it. That is astonishing. And the whole analog versus digital was, I think, kind of interesting to look at, because now we'd obviously be like, oh, of course digital consoles are different than analog consoles, but at the time nobody knew, so it was just like, oh, they're the same thing.
Who remembers the old console wars of the Commodore 64 and the Atari 2600?
It was the
Commodore 64 is not a console.
Yeah, it was the
It's a
Commodore
console.
64. The Commodore
It's a
64 against the Tandy Color computer was the Computer Wars.
Nah, I think you're getting mixed up there. Because I remember back in the day when I wasn't live that the Atari 2600 was battling the
Dude,
old
it was the
Commodore
Atari
64.
2600, the ColecoVision, and the Intellivision. Those were like your main things of like the late 70s, early 80s.
Wasn't it a TriStar?
I don't know. I don't
What
remember.
was I can't remember. I think I could have sworn there was something called the TriStar, right? That had like 3 separate, or it was something else, but it was like a triangle shape, and it had like 3 little like controllers that you could pull out from the center base, and I can't remember what it was called.
Dude,
Oh,
that
yeah,
sounds crazy.
I'm trying to remember
I've saw
what
that
it was.
before.
It was a console that was shaped like a triangle, and it had 3 controller ports.
Yeah, like if I can find it, it was amazing. I think it was Coleco actually. I think it was what they made prior to. Where did they go to the first generation of console? What wiki this is, you guys?
This is really funny, but ever since you mentioned a triangle-shaped console with 3 controller ports, our viewership has quadrupled, and I'm not kidding.
We need to find out what this is.
But yeah, I think that there was a lot of different companies that wound up like buying the rights to make Atari games and different like video game systems that played Atari games. I think Sears had their own. I think RCA had their own. And it was all sorts of. There was like one that was built into a TV that they actually wound up licensing Nintendo with back in the like 87 or 88 when they made a TV with a Nintendo inside of it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those. Those are pretty crazy. The Coleco Telstar arcade.
Is that maybe? No, I could have sworn I'd seen one of these that literally. Maybe it was one of the Telstars because they made like a Telstar arcade. Yep, that's it. That's right. I just looked it up. My friend has one of those. It's amazing.
Was it Coleco?
Yep.
That's awesome. Wow. That is pretty cool. I have an Odyssey. Those were a big deal back in the day too. I just can't get it to work. But
you need, yeah, they're kind of a pain.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, that's like is it the one with the steering wheel and the gun and everything?
Yep.
Yep.
That is awesome. That is ridiculous.
Posted in chat.
There you go. So okay.
Sorry, no, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Jumping around a little bit, and I know we've been talking about consoles and Destiny. Have you guys heard anything about some of like one of my personal all-time favorite video game companies who are apparently jumping ship from consoles and focusing on mobile development? And I don't know if you guys have followed this at all, but I'm talking about Konami. What they've done and what they've decided to do after the big splurge that they just went through with Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yep.
And what are your thoughts on that? Is that, I mean, what is the actual story? And I've kind of just read snippets here and there, but why on earth would Konami go from being this major profitable giant, video game company? I mean, they were always considered one of the top 5 in the world in development. They've bought other companies. They bought Hudson Soft, and they've got the rights to Bomberman and Bonk and all of Hudson Soft, Adventure Island, all their characters and everything, and they've just swallowed it up and just are crawling into a coffin and dying? I mean, what is the point of that?
I think because they have a new president. And
that was the same one.
So,
Hayakawa?
Are they making like money off of the handheld market?
Or they started making games 2 years ago on mobiles, and because in Japan, I guess it's just they're making so much money because it's a untapped market for a big company to like go over and make these games for it. So I think they're just trying to like stop worrying about competition that much with like consoles and they're just trying to do little games that they can just like milk people of like hundreds of dollars per the
Is
game.
it because like a production of a game that's going to be released on a cell phone or a mobile can take 2-3 months to develop and have someone play it on their free time rather than put in millions of dollars and thousands of man hours into a game that is a humongous production, almost like a film, like a Metal Gear Solid, and they're just looking at it like, well, we're not going to do this. Like, this is not going to be our future.
Here's my true thought. Like, the only big games that Konami has come out with and like announced was the Metal Gear franchise and the new Silent Hill trailer and hype. Both Kojima products. Now Kojima's gone, so I think they're kind of like being like, yeah, I don't think we got what it takes to like make console games anymore. We should
Well,
probably
push 'em
switch
out.
that's not
something.
entirely true. Some of Konami's biggest games haven't had a re-release in who knows how long. They could live solely off of their Golden Age franchises for years.
Yeah, but they're relying on Kojima on their two biggest franchises.
Well, they
And
were,
then-
and their current big franchises. In the past, Konami has had kingship over the shmup category, in my opinion, with the Gradius series. I mean, Konami was unmatched with that.
Like,
When they teamed up with Treasure for Gradius 5 on PlayStation 2, it was just insurmountable how great that game was. There was not a shooter that could surpass that. But then they had Ninja Turtles, they had Contra. I mean, just those two
Castlevania.
alone. Castlevania, just those franchises alone, they rebooted those. They would, I mean, 2D is starting to become the whole big rage again. I mean, if you look at the PSN store, I mean, it's a bunch of 2D platformers. You have Rogue Legacy, you have Limbo, you have, Shovel Knight. Look at all these games. I mean,
Volgar the Viking.
Volgar the Viking. Okay.
Hey, it's awesome.
Okay. I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Konami does have. I mean, what we grew up with in the 8 and 16, 32-bit era. I mean, there's Contra. There's just dozens and dozens and dozens of game content that they could reboot. But I think that a little bit of that too is they've tried that in the last 10 years. They've brought new games out for each of those franchises. The Castlevania game, they wound up just taking the God of War battle system and putting their own skin of Simon Belmont on it and said, hey, look at it, it's a new Castlevania game. Let's play these quick events and some hack and slash, because that's definitely what Castlevania always was about, right? And some people bought it, but now I believe there was a sequel out, or is there a sequel? And I think they're even coming out with a third one in 2016. I think it was
number 2.
Yeah, and it's I have it. I played it. I didn't think it was very exciting, and I definitely didn't think it played like a Castlevania game, which was really disappointing. I don't know how you can really transfer, the play style of Castlevania into 3D, but however Konami's tried so far has failed each time.
Here's a thought. What if they're switching to mobile to re-release all their old 8-bit, and 16-bit games on the mobile? Because that's a huge dump they can do. It will pretty much be, costless. They just, have to port them over to mobile, and they'll just get crap tons of money for it because everyone will buy it. Everyone will buy the original Contra, the original Metal Gear Solid, the original, Castlevania games on your mobile device, and you can get, all sorts of cosmetic stuff, color plates, all for like $1.50, and they'll make tons of money, and they don't need a big team. They can have, like a 20-person team, and just make crap tons of money. I think that would be the best choice to go.
You're touching on something there that Konami hasn't really had much to deal with in the past, and that them strictly going mobile makes me think they're really going to start diving into, and that's microtransactions, especially when it comes to mobile gaming.
They've had experience with it, definitely in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5.
For your base.
Sure, but they haven't really, that's not Konami's history, and they haven't really, that hasn't been like a bulk of something that they've wanted to focus on.
They've been
Whereas
doing it a lot in Japan with mobile games and stuff for the past like 10 years.
And that's where they want to keep going, right? So hey, microtransactions work. We're just gonna throw everything on the mobile and forget this 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit player base that we have.
The thing that gets me is they're not really focusing on Castlevania. They're not really going to be focusing on Metal Gear. They're not really going to be focusing on Silent Hill. They're mostly going to use them to release like crap that they could easily put with another franchise or pachinko machines, which they make a ton of money off of. And I really just think it would be a smarter business move for them to just sell those franchises off. Like, just sell them to someone else who wants to make something for them. People would pay a ton of money for Metal Gear Solid.
I agree. I really wish that Capcom would follow that. I wish Sega would follow that. I wish Konami would follow that.
Capcom is selling, actually. They said they are going. They said they will sell to someone who pays them enough money, and I really hope Nintendo does it because it would completely.
I feel the same exact way. I hope Nintendo buys all of those companies. Like. Because they would make the best Castlevania games. They would make amazing Mega Man games. Like they would treat those franchises with the same respect that they treat their own franchises. Imagine a Mega Man Maker game. Like, oh my God! Like, could you imagine making your own Mega Man levels?
New Mega Man game. It doesn't even have to be a Maker.
It's called Mighty Number 9.
Did that get delayed again? Is that coming out in 2017 now?
I don't know.
But yeah, no, I agree. Konami is my biggest disappointment of this year as far as gaming goes. I mean, I've sat back and I've followed video gaming for so long in my life, and I've seen amazing companies come and go. I've seen companies like Sunsoft and Jaleco and SNK for the most part. I mean, these games systems that I just fell in love with, Sega, and then they just disappear and they just fall apart. And Konami is following that same trend where they came up with so many terrible ideas and they put their money in such stupid places and they spent and wasted all this time and all this money on games like Silent Hill and then just decide, it's canceled. Like, you fucked over your entire fans, everybody, your entire market. It's bizarre.
Well, I mean, Silent Hills and PT was the biggest pop that I've ever seen anybody get hyped for, like the last couple Silent Hill games were just dog crap. Like, you would play them just because they're Silent Hill. But when everyone heard about PT and actually how, frightening it is playing it, everyone was crazy. And then they found out, Norman Reedus is there. Guillermo del Toro's there. Kojima. Like, everyone was super excited for, and then Konami decided to open their mouth, piss off Kojima. I don't actually know the big thing for that, but they had their their fight, and then Kojima left with his team, and then everything got canceled, and Konami took Kojima's name off of the Metal Gear Solid promotional stuff, which I have not seen a game without that, with that little tag on top of it. And then they announced this. So I think that actually was a big thing. I think Kojima leaving was their catalyst to kind of be like, what are we going to do now? Everything is riding on them, and we kind of screwed ourselves over. Let's just cut the consoles and just get more people on mobile. Like, I think that was kind of their rush decision to do something.
I think that they from what I heard about the whole Kojima situation was basically Kojima wanted to spend another year developing the Phantom Pain, which I thought was going to happen anyways because they announced Ground Zeroes and it was coming out 2014, right? And they're like, hey, here's this little Metal Gear Solid thing, and Phantom Pain's totally coming out in 2015, guys, and everyone was like, yeah, sure, it is. We'll see when that happens because we all knew it was going to get delayed. And I think, from what I heard, Kojima went to them and was like, hey, we need to extend this by a year because I have all this little extra content that we need to shove in, and basically Konami refused to budge. And so it probably came to a point where he was like, either you give us this money for this or I'm not going to be doing Silent Hill or something, and they probably were just like, well, you're fired. Like, I'm fairly certain that's probably how it happened. I don't think he left. I think he was fired.
If it was like that, Konami's, just horrible at making decisions. I would have
They've
gave
been
Kojima
bad
like
for
2 years.
like since the 80s.
Like I would give him enough time to make the game that he wanted. His like masterpiece, because every other game was phenomenal. So I'd be like, yeah, take a year, take two. We'll just give us like a 30-minute another story, and we'll sell for $40, and people will buy it. It's fine, just do it. And I think it was a bad decision letting him go.
Yeah, I think, well, they've, like, if you listen to stories about when he first came into Konami in the 80s, like, the culture there was very toxic. And they like constantly like abused Kojima until he made Metal Gear, and then people were like, "Whoa!" And then they continued to abuse it because they made, was it Snake's Revenge, which he had nothing to do with, and he was working on Metal Gear 2 at the time, and so they both came out like the same time, I think, like within a couple months of each other.
Yeah,
Both
Metal Gear 2 came out on the MSX, and Metal Gear Snake's Revenge came out on the NES, and maybe something else I can't remember, but one was just Konami saying, let's make another Nintendo game, and it really didn't play anything like a Metal Gear game, and it was not very good either. But the MSX releases that Kojima worked on were actually amazing.
Yeah.
So okay, that's it's interesting to hear all your different opinions on that, and it's sort of sad to hear how this is sort of kind of coming to the end for Konami and whatever else. And speaking of coming to the end, we're getting near the end of the show today, and I just wanted to say real quick to all you guys, I'm really thankful that you guys were able to take some time out of your busy schedules and hang out today and do this little chat with me. I'm very, very, very excited to have had an opportunity to hang out with you guys, and happy for all the viewers that have popped in and out during the time. I guess we should have said Telstar, Coleco Telstar Arcade a few more times to get more viewers. Maybe we'll have to do an entire episode just based on that.
It's like Beetlejuice.
So our viewers would like all of a sudden triple and quadruple all the time. But no, I'm really excited, and I hope that anybody that's there you go. www.geekvintage.com/Coleco Telstar Arcade.php. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on us to find out when we're going to do more episodes and for more live streams, because they're going to be coming every Wednesday night for Game Hump. We're going to try to keep these going. You could follow us. You could follow me on my Twitter, which is @_Joshua Turbo. You can also follow us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/gamehuggers. But anyway, what I'd like to do now is just kind of go around the table here one last time. You could tell me what game you're currently playing and what is your favorite Metal Gear /Konami memory. And I'll start with you, Bo Solaris.
Hey, Bo Solaris. I play Destiny, Bloodborne, and most other FromSoft games. And my favorite Konami moment was probably Loop 29 or 30 on Gradius 5.
Nice. Ben?
Hey, I'm Ben. You can catch me at Twitter at Mahler, and you can catch me on twitch.tv with the same name. I'm currently playing Super Meat Boy. Woo! And Destiny, of course. And my favorite memory, and still is Silent Hill 2. It's hands down one of my most favorite games, so that's why I'm a little mad about Silent Hills being canceled.
We actually real quick here, we actually did get a message on our YouTube stream from Mutsuki-chan. They asked us to talk about the Virtual Boy, and believe me, Aaron and I have wanted to do an entire episode about the Virtual Boy, so we'll get to that maybe in a couple weeks. We will get to one of those. We just don't have enough time to talk about the Virtual Boy anymore tonight.
I was gonna say, like, I've been playing Destiny: The Taken King, and I've been playing some Rock Band 4 lately, which I think is actually pretty good. I mean, if you like the other Rock Band games, get it. If you didn't like the other Rock Band games, don't get it. That's basically the way I would sum that up.
Now here's the question for you, Aaron. Can you use the Xbox 360 or PS3 peripherals with the new generation versions?
You can use the PlayStation ones without any special adapter. But to use the Xbox ones, you need a special adapter, but I believe it comes with the Xbox One version of the game. So that's not really that much of an issue. If you get it download, you have to go in the store and buy it. It's like $20. So really, don't get Xbox One download. Just buy the physical disc.
That's awesome.
And I guess my favorite Konami moment would probably be Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. It was like a Bond film / Metal Gear game, so what's not to like about that?
That's amazing. I would have to say, now as far as Konami or Kojima moments, my favorite Kojima game is actually Snatcher on the PC Engine or the Sega CD. I think that's an amazing, amazing, beautiful game which takes place in the Metal Gear Solid distant future. So if you have a chance to try that out, it's an amazing CD-ROM antic game, comic book adventure, digital comic style game where you do a lot of text and a lot of reading and a lot of talking, and a lot of really awesome cutscenes. It's very similar to Blade Runner. So imagine Blade Runner mixed with like the Metal Gear Solid universe. You get Snatcher. It's pretty freaking cool. But one of my favorite Konami, or maybe least favorite Konami moments, was when Konami finally signed on with Sega to make Genesis games. I remember thinking how I was so pissed because Konami had turned its back on Nintendo, and I always assumed that Nintendo and Konami would always be there back-to-back on every system, and when Konami signed on with Sega to make the next Contra game and the next Castlevania game, and even like Rocket Knight Adventures came onto the Genesis, I was so mad because I hated Sega so much and that stupid Genesis. But how this becomes one of my favorite moments is because I actually got to try those games and I actually owned them much later in life, and I found out how amazing they are. And it was really cool to see Konami expanding onto a different platform, making these games with, and Castlevania 2 has a lot of blood and gore, and there's crosses, and there's sort of satanic references here and there. It's awesome, and it's so cool to see them be able to do that real scary, like horror-themed type gameplay on a system that's not necessarily as censored as like Nintendo's Super Nintendo was at the time. Any other closing moment comments there, guys?
LJN is coming back. Hopefully. That's not an official statement, but I really hope LJN comes back. Konami goes out, LJN comes in. Hell yeah.
Well, did you actually know that Acclaim is coming back, the company that owned LJN?
Really? I did not know that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
If you look up Acclaim, they're developing indie games now, and they're going to be coming out with a whole series of new games, apparently, for like Android development, and I believe some more of those digital downloads for like the newer systems and stuff. But yeah, Acclaim is coming back.
Please, Gex, come back. I want Gex back.
Square licensed that, actually. Like, people can suggest Gex ideas, and like they will, if your idea is good enough and you have a team that can actually make it, they will license Gex to you. Not even joking.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Our next project at work, build Gex.
Let's do it, Aaron. Bring it up.
Game Huggers developing Gex.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here, and everybody that's watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am so happy we were able to make your Wednesday night or your work week a little bit easier. Just think about this. If you work a 9-to-5 job during the week, you've got 2 more days of work, and you're done. You get the weekend off to probably do what Bo does and just play Destiny all weekend.
Fucking A!
Woo! Or fuck a B, it's got 2 holes. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. Thanks again. Tune in next week when we have another episode of Game Huggers and a very special guest. Not that these guys aren't special or anything, but I got a kind of a big announcement coming hopefully early next week about who's going to be on next Game Hump. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Woo!